I would ask you a question which you might think is very simple or infinitely complicated, depending on your life experience, and this is it. Can you trust the police? Maybe you are a police officer, maybe your family are generations of police officers, and maybe your answer is instantly yes, of course you can. Why would you join the police force if you're not a thoroughly decent person who believes in the rule of law and wants to keep people safe and wants to maintain law and order? Why would you? Of course you can trust a policeman, of course. If you're in trouble, you try and find a policeman. Good luck with that, of course. Very good luck finding one. But if you do, you know you can trust a policeman. Or maybe you want to say it is not like that for you or for your family. Maybe it is because you are a woman and you have heard all these different cases of police officers who have broken the law, who have molested or murdered or hoodwinked women, often using their position as police officers to do so. The latest one is this. A serving Met police officer who was posted, ironically, of course, in a school in North London, has pleaded guilty to child sex offences. PC Hussain Chehab, who's 22, admitted 4 counts of sexual activity with a girl aged 13 to 15, 3 counts of making indecent photographs of a child and sexual communication with a child. He's going to be sentenced on the 17th of March. The headline is Met Safer Schools officer pleads guilty to child sex offences. Just the latest in a long, long line of sagas of this kind. Let's discuss, can you trust the police? With Maggie Oliver, former detective constable. Foundation. Maggie, great to have
Nice to be here. Thank
Hello
you.
there. So, I mean, it's a litany, isn't it, of disgraceful stories of an abuse of power of the very, very worst kind. Because if you can't trust a policeman to protect you and look after you and uphold the law and you know, to in every way maintain law and order and justice, who can you trust in this world?
You know, what you've just said, Vanessa, when I switched on, very much mirrors my own experience. I joined the police myself when I was 41 years old. And I have to say that, I was an intelligent, capable woman. What I experienced myself in my probation was something I had never experienced before in my life. I was bullied, misogynistic treatment. It almost destroyed me. And it was from male officers. It was actually my supervisor. Fortunately, I had a really good superintendent who took my side and supported me and allowed me to stay. I tried my best to do my job. But about 15 years ago, I became involved on a case called Operation Augusta, which was my first experience of dealing with organised sexual abuse. And what I saw then and what I saw afterwards in Rochdale horrified me, because I saw senior police officers turning away from desperate victims. And for a victim of sexual abuse to even approach the police takes enormous courage.
Sorry to interrupt you, Maggie, but obviously everything that you have seen is writ large in your memory, on your consciousness, in your heart, in your soul. You can never forget it. I understand that a certain kind of delicacy prevents you describing the actual intimate details of the awful things that you have seen. But I also think we need a bit of help watching you and listening to you to know what you mean. So when you say you have seen senior police officers turn away from a woman being sexually assaulted or saying she's sexually assaulted, if that was in your presence, how could they dare to do that knowing that you, a police officer, was there to witness this behaviour?
I mean, if I go back to Operation Augusta, I don't want to bore your listeners, but that was a case where we had 100 paedophiles on a database that we knew were abusing children, dozens of children, and yet Greater Manchester Police closed that case down deliberately and intentionally because they were not prepared to put resources in. That is misuse of power. It is neglect of duty, misconduct in a public office. What is coming into the public arena now is something that I have known about for many years. And it is exactly why I started the Maggie Oliver Foundation, because we fight alongside victims who repeatedly tell us they are going to the police and they are being judged, they are being pushed away, they are not being listened to. So we advocate alongside them. And I would encourage anybody who is struggling to be heard to come to us. But it is about corruption within the police at the highest ranks for me. It is a culture of defensiveness, of cover-ups.
Okay, let me stop you again. So you're talking about Operation Augusta, and you're saying 100 paedophiles, so a paedophile ring, a really large paedophile ring, was operating, known to the police. You knew, they knew, the police knew, and the investigation into it was closed down deliberately. They decided not to investigate. They wouldn't put resources into it. Okay, well, here's the question, obviously. Why? Why not? Why did they do that? What was the motivation of that?
It actually went to a full inquiry, and that reported 2 years ago. And the official reason given in that official report was that they were not prepared to put resources in because they are expensive, time-consuming investigations, and they deliberately closed that case down. I fought for that case to be reopened. It has been reopened, but those 100 paedophiles were left to continue to abuse children for another 15 years. Now, that when you think about that, a normal, ordinary, decent person would never believe that that could happen.
Absolutely not.
It did, Vanessa. So when I read of these cases and the cover-ups and officers not being dismissed, you know, I see every day professional standards boards being asked to look into corruption, and I see them covering up for these officers. You know, we go, as a foundation, we are dealing with senior officers for victims and survivors, and the response we get is so random. Some police officers take it on board and they deal with it properly, but it shouldn't be potluck who you get, and it shouldn't be you know, a random decision whether somebody takes an allegation of sexual abuse forward. That is the law in this country, and far too often now we are dealing with cases every day where that is not the case. And I've said for a long time, I resigned, as your listeners know, because I was horrified at what I was seeing. And I went to the chief constable and I told him what was happening. He called me a woman who had lost the plot, a woman who had been bereaved. You know, I had become too emotionally involved. Now, he knew that I was telling the truth, and yet he was prepared to demonize me as the messenger and turn away from the victims who are powerless. Now, I took my voice and I have used it to continually expose what I see as a failing criminal justice system. The latest incidents that you're talking about are just examples of what I see every day, Vanessa.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's in the Met this is happening that you are reporting about, but this is going on throughout the whole country. And there are thousands of listeners who'll be listening to your show now who will have had experience of being failed by a police officer that they approached for help. And the solution is not easy. It is complex.
I mean, I want to just for people who might maybe think, Maggie, that you are exaggerating, or may think that the officer who thought that you were overly emotional or overly involved might be correct, because they don't know you, they don't know what your history is, they can't tell, they can only assess you on the basis of what you're saying right now. If anybody thinks that what you're saying may be overstated, let me just read you what Sir Mark Rowley has said today, so that, you know, this would seem to corroborate everything you've just said. 2 or 3 Met police officers per week, 2 or 3 a week, are expected to appear in court on criminal charges in the coming weeks and months. So maybe 6 months, it could be 3 police officers per week appearing in court. This is according to Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley. Sir Mark was speaking to the Greater London Authority's Police and Crime Committee this afternoon in the wake of the case of PC David Carrick, who admitted dozens of rape and sexual offences against 12 women on the 16th of January. The Commissioner added the public should prepare for more painful stories, and this comes on a day that a poll revealed only 11% of the country trust the police. So Maggie, you know, you may have been a lone voice then. You're not now, are you? What you said and what you've just said to us is being confirmed by Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Met Police. And I know we're not just talking about the Met.
We're not, and pretty much every member of the public throughout the country now knows this is the truth. You know, if you want, if you question, you know, my veracity, which I know you're not, I would suggest people get hold of my book. That will go into great detail about what I said, you know, 10 years ago. For me, I'm not having a pot at individual police officers because I don't believe that they are being led effectively. I believe that a police officer who served 30 years in an organisation becomes brainwashed into, they're in an echo chamber of voices and opinions that feed into this system. I think we need a complete radical overhaul of policing.
Okay, what would you like to see, Maggie? What would you like to see? What do you think is necessary in the radical overhaul? Because, I mean, I really do think that if we have, and Sir Mark Rowley says we will, 3 cases of corrupt police officers a week in court, and they are reported in detail, it could absolutely annihilate the reputation of the entire police force until people run a mile if they see a police officer coming out of terror because they don't know what they've done or what they could do. And I'm not exaggerating either. I mean, it's just going to compound the fear and the mistrust, and it's going to get bigger with every case, isn't it?
And I think that's where we are, Vanessa. I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But I believe we need outside voices. We need outside scrutiny. These internal investigations don't work. It's marking their own homework. You've got them, you know, they're very powerful organisations. They've got very effective public relations departments. They are not investigated by external forces. That is what we need at this moment in time. I think we really need a Royal Commission into policing. We need a police force that is properly funded, because policing used to be a vocation. It was a career for life. The good police officers are hanging their heads in shame about what is happening. And there are good police officers, but they are being traumatized by what happens all the time. And that is down to leadership. It is down to government decisions. It is down to a lack of investment in public services. It is a lack of training. There are so many factors of this, and an apology or even prosecuting 3 officers a week will not solve this problem. We need a change in attitudes. We need a lack of defensiveness. We need a willingness to listen to, say, the Maggie Oliver Foundation. If we go to them with the story of a victim who is being let down by a junior officer, we are the best friend of that police force. I want that senior officer to do something about that case, because we are not the police, but we are highlighting the failures when we are being approached by victims who are desperate to be heard.
Is there a serious problem? I mean, this is pretty much a rhetorical question. I think I know the answer, but I'm asking it anyway. Is there a serious problem with the recruitment process and procedure? Because, you know, it must be possible for experienced interviewers who have cross-checked everything to see what the person's record is before they come in the door, to see if you've got somebody who's bona fide, who's a decent person, who isn't a bully, who cares about justice, who wants to look after people, who wants, you know, harmony in the community and to do a decent day's work and feel good about themselves at night, or whether the person is a bully, a misogynist, someone who's power hungry, who's somebody who wants to be put in the armed unit so they can wave a gun about like David Carrick did. You know, somebody who is quite clearly wanting to enter the police force because they want to throw their weight about in all sorts of ways which may involve preying upon women. Surely an experienced interviewer in a decent process ought to be able to weed out the baddies, oughtn't it?
I think, Vanessa, that again, that's a complicated answer, but one of the factors is that those good people, like me, who went into the police, you are surrounded by people who might be good people if they are not feeling confident to speak out when they see bullying or they see misogyny, because their career then will be damaged. They remain silent, and over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, they become immune to those things. They become brainwashed into the same form of thinking. That's what I'm saying about chief constables. They have been in that arena for 35 years sometimes. They feel that they are always right, and the way they do it is the correct way. I believe that many are out of touch with the country. They are out of touch with ordinary people and what they want from the police. People want somebody who will do their best, who will communicate, who will be empathetic and kind. And a prosecution is the icing on the cake. But as a police officer, I know the evidence isn't always there. But if you treat that victim with respect and kindness, they will recover and they will accept that a prosecution is not possible. But do you
think that we, the public, need to be better educated about when a crime has been committed and what constitutes an assault and what constitutes stalking and so that we know what we're doing, and so we don't end up going to the police, wasting police time, being told there's nothing they can do? Do we need to have more realistic expectations? Do we need to be better educated? Also, do we need to be informed about the way in which police officers are and are not allowed to speak to us or address us, you know, whether they're meant to be abide by a certain code of respect and call us sir or Mrs. or madam or whatever it is, or whether they're allowed to scream and shout at us. I mean, what the kind of code of conduct is and what we're entitled to expect from the police.
I think, you know, I mean, when I was a police officer, Vanessa, my motto was do as you would be done by. And if you would expect to be treated with respect and courtesy, that is the very least you can expect from, or you should expect from, a police officer. I think where the public need to be perhaps further educated is where they go when they are being treated like dirt. You know, what the processes are then, and that's where we can help, because we know what those processes are. And there are, you know, you do have a victim's right to review. You can go to the IOPC. You can put a complaint in, but you have got come back under the Human Rights Act. But you have to know what those steps are.
Exactly.
And
absolutely. Well said, Maggie. Thank you for joining me on the programme. I do appreciate it. Come and join me anytime. That's Maggie Oliver.